It's been more than a year since Boeing's announcement that company would buy back Spirit Aerosystems here in Wichita.
And now that deal is expected to be closed by the end of the year. Dylan Domingue joins us with more on that deal and what the Federal Trade Commission is requiring for the merger to happen. Dylan.
Yeah, Mike, Rachel, Spirit confirming to us today the transaction for Boeing to buy Spirit Aerosystems is expected to happen this month. This proposed merger will combine one of the largest manufacturers of commercial and military aircraft with the world's largest independent supplier of fuselages and wings. The Federal Trade Commission ruled the deal can move forward. However, the FTC said this week that Boeing must first sell off portions of Spirit that do business with Airbus, which is a rival company to Boeing. Spirit's plants in North Carolina, Northern Ireland, and Malaysia will be divested as part of these requirements. The FTC says the requirements will protect competition in the aircraft market and resolves concerns that Boeing could control the competitor's supply chain. Today, Wichita Mayor Lily Wu spoke about the deal that could be finalized soon.
I'm really looking forward to new leadership taking the reins at Spirit. I hope that this is positive for both the employees as well as the community.
And you might remember last July, Boeing announced that their plans to buy Spirit for $4.7 billion. Rachel?